dangerous driving, falling for the wrong person, and dancing with cartoon birds. These movies really tested the limits of how much an actor could take. The dark, claustrophobic sets and constantly gushing water made for some difficult days on the set of James Cameron's 1989 sci-fi flick, The Abyss. But one day stands out for Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio. While filming a scene in which Ed Harris performed CPR on her, Cameron directed Harris to actually slap Mastrantonio. He had to repeat the slap when the take was obstructed by Harris's arm. After the next take was botched when the camera ran out of film, Mastrantonio actually got up and left the set. She stayed away for hours, leaving Harris to practice with a sandbag until she was ready to finish filming the scene. Captain America: Civil War focuses on the rift between the Avengers as the US government tries to limit their reach. This new oversight is partially inspired by the exploits of the Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes, who is being pursued by various factions. In an attempt to keep his old friend out of harm's way, Steve Rogers, played by Chris Evans, tries to get to him before anyone else can. In a dramatic chase scene, Bucky attempts to escape by flying away in a helicopter. This prompts Rogers to try to keep the powerful vehicle grounded with his own two hands. In an impressive feat of strength, he actually manages to bring the helicopter crashing down. However, filming this scene was so intense that it left him injured. Speaking to ET Online, Evans remarked,
"And I actually messed up my arm doing it, I really did."
According to Evans, this stunt wasn't created through special effects. He's truly straining to keep this helicopter under control. He explained, "It's a fake helicopter, obviously, but it was drifting beyond the ability of control. I tweaked a little something. To this day, I'm still messed up." While on the set of the 2002 thriller Panic Room, director David Fincher told the New York Times, "I felt like I needed to be more attentive to watching the actors." He put that theory into motion for his next film, Zodiac, a period piece about the search for the Zodiac killer who murdered their way through Northern California in the 1970s. Jake Gyllenhaal, who starred as cartoonist turned crime reporter Robert Graysmith, bore the brunt of Fincher's commitment to putting his actors through the ringer. According to Gyllenhaal, for one scene, Fincher required 70 takes. For another, he asked for 90. Plus, because the film was shot digitally, Fincher could spontaneously delete a slew of takes all at once. Gyllenhaal said, "But there is a stopping point. There's a point at which you go, that's what we have to work with. But we would reshoot things." Although it was far from her first major role, Kate Winslet's performance in Titanic launched her to worldwide stardom. But filming the movie was not a pleasant experience. The Telegraph reports that there were multiple issues on set that caused both the cast and crew to question whether they wanted to remain part of the project at all.
"But this ship can't sink."
"She's made of iron, sir. I assure you, she can."
One particularly troubling moment came when Winslet filmed a scene in the water. According to the Times, she genuinely feared she might drown in the set's gargantuan water tank. Things were so rough, she even expressed a desire to steer clear of director James Cameron in the future. As reported by The Guardian, Winslet said, "He has a temper like you wouldn't believe. You'd have to pay me a lot of money to work with Jim again." Years later, however, she softened her stance. The pair collaborated on Avatar: The Way of Water. Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill movies follow Beatrix Kiddo, aka the Bride, as she seeks revenge on the deadly Viper assassination squad. Years earlier, the group betrayed her by killing her groom-to-be and putting her in a coma. Now she's back on her feet and ready to dispense justice. Uma Thurman shines as the deadly Kiddo, earning international acclaim for her performance. In the second movie, a scene in which Kiddo drives a car with steely determination proved to be problematic. As the New York Times eventually revealed, Tarantino pushed Thurman to drive the vehicle herself despite her well-founded concerns that it would be unsafe. Those fears were soon justified when the car hit a tree, causing serious injuries that Thurman still deals with to this day. She revealed that immediately after the incident, she was scared she would be unable to walk again. Thurman remarked, "I went from being a creative contributor and performer to being like a broken tool." After a 15-year battle to get footage of the crash, Tarantino finally surrendered it to Thurman. But as Thurman herself noted, this can't undo the damage that was done or the pain that still lingers. In the 1993 film What's Eating Gilbert Grape, Johnny Depp starred as the titular Gilbert, a guy stuck in a small town caring for his developmentally disabled younger brother and their housebound mother. Cast as the mom was Darlene Cates, an acting novice that director Lasse Hallström spotted on the Sally Jesse Raphael show discussing her own struggle with obesity. Depp was going through some personal stuff during the film's shoot and was using alcohol to cope. Hallström later told Entertainment Weekly that he also empathized with his character a bit too much. It was more that he could relate to the troubled family life and the desire to get out of a small-town situation. Depp was in such a sensitive place that he had trouble filming scenes where the character had to make disparaging comments about his mother. Cates recalled that each night after those scenes were shot, Depp called her to apologize. She explained, "Here, he is the professional. He's done all this stuff before. But I thought, what a tribute to his kindness that he would take the time to consider that I might be hurt by what he said."
You're my knight in shimmering armor. Did you know that?
To do his job, killing bad guys and foiling terrorist plots, 007 needs to use a firearm on occasion. One of the actors who portrayed Bond on screen had a really hard time with those moments. Roger Moore starred in 7 007 movies, including The Spy Who Loved Me, Moonraker, and, ironically, The Man with the Golden Gun. While he doesn't regret playing James Bond, according to the BBC, Moore once said, "I regret that sadly heroes in general are depicted with guns in their hands, and to tell the truth, I have always hated guns and what they represent." It all goes back to his childhood. In his memoir, My Word is My Bond, Moore said that as a boy, he was rendered deaf for a few days when a gun blew up in his hands. A few years later, a friend shot a BB gun into the future star's leg. When he'd have to use a firearm on screen, Moore would squeeze his eyes tightly in discomfort as he pulled the trigger on his prop Walther PPK firearm. By the time he filmed his final Bond movie, he publicly lamented that the film series had, quote, turned so violent. In Quentin Tarantino's Django Unchained, Jamie Foxx plays Django Freeman, a formerly enslaved man who joins Dr. King Schultz to rescue his wife from fearsome plantation owner Calvin J. Candie, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. As you would expect from a Tarantino movie, Django Unchained contains lots of stylized violence, gory fight scenes, and plenty of foul language, including a number of racist slurs. DiCaprio took issue with his dialogue, which required him to use these ugly terms multiple times. As Metro.co.uk revealed, the actor needed outside advice to move forward with the brutal script. Both Fox and Samuel L. Jackson urged him to perform the dialogue as it was written for the sake of authenticity. Though he did manage to move forward, DiCaprio said that he found playing Candie incredibly tough. The actor remarked, "It was this incredibly interesting, horrific character. I mean, there was absolutely nothing about this man I could identify with." The psychological horror film Black Swan is memorable for many reasons. It was a huge box office hit, earning more than $300 million against its budget of $13 million. It also won a vast array of awards, including 5 nominations from the 2011 Oscars. Natalie Portman stars as promising ballet dancer Nina Sayers, who struggles to cope with the demands of portraying the dual role of Odette and Odile in Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. She soon forms a rivalry with fellow dancer Lily, played by Mila Kunis, and slowly begins to lose touch with reality. At one point in the film, Kunis and Portman's characters lock themselves in a room and end up in bed together, a scene that was something of a trial for both actresses. In an interview with Parade, Kunis revealed that she and Portman knew the scene would be a hot topic. It wasn't done for shock value, but we weren't looking forward to it. I don't think we were laughing between takes. I think we were like, let's just get this over with. It's uncomfortable doing a sex scene. It's just bizarre. Portman confirmed this in a conversation with MTV News. It was pretty awkward. I almost feel like it would be easier to do it with someone you didn't know. That said, both Portman and Kunis agreed that their friendship made the whole process smoother. Before Horrible Bosses, there was 9 to 5. This dark comedy from 1980 centered on 3 overlooked female secretaries enacting brutal revenge on a chauvinistic pig of a manager played by Dabney Coleman. Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Jane Fonda headed up the cast, with Fonda also producing, but a mere week after filming began, Tomlin tried to quit. What set off the legendary comic actress? She watched the raw footage of herself and was embarrassed by her performance, particularly the scenes for a Snow White-inspired animated fantasy sequence where she acted opposite a yet-to-be-created cartoon bird. On The Late Show with Stephen Colbert, Tomlin explained,
"And I was talking to the birds that weren't there.
Yeah.
And I was not doing a good job. And I thought, oh, I'm going to be horrible in this.
Despite her reservations, she stuck with the film and an 80s classic was born. During production of the first Fast and Furious movie, series regular and all-around badass Michelle Rodriguez actually considered walking away over concerns with the way her character, Letty Ortiz, was written. Specifically, Rodriguez took issue with the way the script called for Letty to betray her true love, Dom, and fall for undercover cop Brian. She felt this betrayal made no sense for a woman who clearly preferred, in her words, the alphaist of alpha males to a pretty boy. Refusing to compromise her vision of Letty, Rodriguez put her foot down, telling producers she'd quit the movie if she had to. Fortunately for Fast and Furious fans, the storyline was tweaked to Rodriguez's liking, and the rest is blockbuster history.
Starring in one of the most anticipated movies of the century is an opportunity most actors would kill for. But the pressure of filming 2015 Star Wars The Force Awakens nearly proved too much for Daisy Ridley. The British newcomer didn't have much experience before J.J. Abrams cast her as Rey, and Screen Rant reports that she almost quit on the first day when he told her that her performance during a desert scene felt wooden. That note, along with bearing the weight of the biggest franchise in movie history, almost prompted Ridley to get on a starship to anywhere far, far away. Shelley Duvall set a Guinness World Record for her portrayal of Wendy in Stanley Kubrick's 1980 horror classic The Shining, but it's not a record anyone would want. The perfectionist Kubrick insisted on 127 takes of a scene where Duvall's hysterical character uses a bat to fend off a deranged Jack Nicholson. By the end, she was so exhausted and dehydrated from crying that she nearly quit. She didn't, but the stress of filming the scene was bad enough that she reportedly began losing her hair. Before she landed leading roles in huge blockbusters like Avatar and Guardians of the Galaxy, Zoe Saldana was just another struggling actress getting by on bit parts. She had a small one as Anna Maria in 2003's Pirates of the Caribbean: The Curse of the Black Pearl, and she said she was treated so badly that she nearly quit, telling The Hollywood Reporter, "It was very elitist. People disrespecting me because they look at my number on a call sheet and they think that I'm not important." It was so demoralizing, Saldana said she even considered quitting acting altogether. Mike Myers created the character of Wayne Campbell on Saturday Night Live, and the recurring sketch became so popular that Paramount wanted a Wayne's World movie. Myers wrote the screenplay, and he was especially excited about the scene where Wayne and the boys pack into the Mirthmobile and headbang to Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. But the studio wanted to replace the song with something fresher and cheaper to license. Myers thought the Queen song was crucial, as he revealed on WTF with Mark Maron. Both Myers and Bohemian Rhapsody stayed. Gene Hackman won an Oscar for his turn as New York City police detective Jimmy Popeye Doyle in 1971's The French Connection. But it almost didn't happen. A notoriously difficult actor, he often clashed with director William Friedkin, especially after Friedkin revealed that Paul Newman was his first choice for the part. Things came to a head in a scene where Hackman, dressed in a Santa Claus costume, tackles a criminal on the street. Friedkin demanded 27 takes, and Hackman nearly quit. Fortunately, he stayed and even mentioned it in his speech at the Academy Awards. Few wrestling stars are bigger than John Cena, so when WWE produced the direct-to-video cop thriller 12 Rounds in 2009, casting him as the lead was a no-brainer. Although his day job is to battle hulking beasts in the ring, Cena apparently isn't fearless. One scene called for his character to rappel down a skyscraper and dangle mid-air from a rope, but Cena revealed later that his severe fear of heights triggered intense anxiety, and he considered walking away before he even got up there. A big part of the fourth Rocky movie involves Rocky's mentor Apollo Creed staging a comeback. Played by former NFL linebacker Carl Weathers, Creed gets roughed up in the ring pretty bad by communist pugilist Ivan Drago, played by Dolph Lundgren. But one of the boxing scenes got a little too real when Lundgren threw Weathers into a corner, causing Weathers to break character and throw a real punch. Lundgren responded in kind, knocking Weathers out. When he regained consciousness, he quit the movie and sent production into limbo for 4 days. That's when Sylvester Stallone finally convinced Weathers to return. Alfred Hitchcock had a reputation for being unkind to actresses, but Tippi Hedren signed on to 1963's The Birds under the guarantee that she'd only be attacked with mechanical birds during the film's climactic scene. But Hitchcock is the king of twists, and he wanted Hedren's terror to feel real, so he instructed crew members to throw real, live birds at her. This real-life game of Angry Birds went on for 5 full days, and Hedren had a breakdown when it was over. She only finished the movie when a doctor ordered Hitchcock to give her a week off to recover.
The Walking Dead nearly suffered what would have been a devastating loss in Season 3 when Lauren Cohan, who plays Maggie, contemplated quitting over a particularly stressful scene. After reading the script and realizing Maggie was supposed to perform an emergency C-section on Lori Grimes while the character's son looked on, she took her concerns to co-star Steven Yeun, explaining she was worried it would be too intense. But after further consideration, that's exactly why she decided to stay. Recognizing that The Walking Dead is a show about people pushed to grueling extremes, she drew on her discomfort to deliver an affectingly honest performance. You think you hated Fox's first couple of Fantastic Four movies? Try being Jessica Alba, whose experiences playing Sue, Invisible Woman Storm nearly made her walk away from acting altogether. Alba's frustration stemmed from working with director Tim Story, who she later claimed issued absurd demands like telling her to keep her facial expression flat during a crying scene so she'd stay pretty. After 2007's Rise of the Silver Surfer, she realized she didn't care about the movie business anymore and has been more selective about acting projects. But things have still worked out pretty well for her. She went on to co-found The Honest Company, currently valued around $1 billion. Interview with the Vampire united Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt in a visually sumptuous adaptation of the best-selling Anne Rice novel. But being part of 1994's most eagerly anticipated Beefcake Summit wasn't all it was cracked up to be for Pitt. Years after the movie came and went, Pitt admitted he was so miserable during filming that he actually approached producer David Geffen about buying out his contract, only to reconsider after Geffen informed him it'd cost $40 million. It's hard to imagine Gandalf being played by anyone other than Sir Ian McKellen, who played the wizard in all 6 Lord of the Rings and Hobbit films. But if things had worked out a little differently during the filming of The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, director Peter Jackson might have had to find a different actor. That's because McKellen was acting almost exclusively to a green screen since his character towered over the hobbits and their interactions had to be stitched together digitally. The frustration of acting alone eventually got to McKellen, who broke down on the set at one point. Jackson did a little emergency outreach to convince him to stick around, and the crew held a Gandalf Appreciation Day and decorated his tent with Lord of the Rings mementos. Marvel's The Avengers was such a huge, ambitious project that it attracted actors who usually don't do comic book movies, including 2-time Oscar nominee Jeremy Renner as Clint Barton, aka Hawkeye. While some of the more famous heroes in the movie, like Iron Man, the Hulk, Captain America, got to do more interesting things, Hawkeye spent most of the Avengers as the brainwashed servant of villain Loki. Renner was displeased. He explained during a Q&A event, "I was just getting to know who Hawkeye was and then zap. I go around like a zombie. I'm like Loki's minion." But don't worry, Renner took it like a champ. Haha, just kidding. He sulked and whined about it. He later recalled that in each scene he'd make horrible, audible grunts of pain. When asked why by the crew, he said, "I'm giving you an option if you just want to kick me out of this movie. Just you know, at any given moment, if you want to kill me off, Daddy's gonna be having a heart attack."